First of all, I hope you've had a good day yesterday. Today is Boxing Day, which means you should go and have a fight with someone. Boxing Day, innit? This video I wanted to just break down my approach to the Get Lucky solo that I uploaded the other day. I've just spent about 3 hours this morning transcribing it, and you can find that over on Sound Slice. You wanted to look at the specific notes and stuff, I've put that on a course there, and I think that's what I'll do with each of these videos as we go along, and as you request me to do solos over different stuff or transcribe other things. So yeah, first of all, anytime you're going to start playing over a tune, particularly if you're soloing over it, it's a good idea to know what key you're in. Now the odd thing about Get Lucky is that I've spoken to lots of function musicians and pub musicians and stuff, and a lot of them seem to think that the song is in B minor because the first chord is B minor. So we're not in B minor, the first chord is B minor, but actually this is the second chord, or chord 2 as we call it. Chord 2, B minor, D major, which is chord 4 here, then F sharp minor, chord 6, E is chord 5. So if you not following me there, so if we're in A major for example, we could say chord 1 is A, chord 4 is D, chord 5 is E. You just get that 1, 4, 5 like bluesy thing. Hopefully you've kind of heard of that sort of thing. So in Get Lucky we start on chord 2, the minor 2, chord 4, the D, chord 6, the F sharp minor, chord 5, the E major. So that's the first key to soloing over Get Lucky and it not sounding a bit weird. So for instance, you could solo over it. If you were actually treating it as in B minor, you might play B minor pentatonic over all of it and it would sound almost okay, but over the F sharp minor, the chord 6, and the chord 5, you could potentially land on a D, which will sound a bit weird because actually that's not the key that we're playing in. So try playing an F sharp minor pentatonic or A major pentatonic over Get Lucky, and it actually works over all those chords. So that's kind of one of my first kind of points, is make sure you know what key you're playing in, and then the rest should become a little bit more easy. It's not always that straightforward to work out what key you're in. I guess how you would do it is a process of elimination. So you start on B minor, so initially you're going to be thinking, okay, B minor, okay, is there a D in B minor? Yes there is. Is there an F sharp in B minor? Yes there is. Is there an E in B minor, an E major? No there's not. It should, if you were in B minor, you would have an E minor, just because of the way the major scale works. So that's how, in my ear, I know that that's... Once we get the E major, that goes, okay, that tells your ear that you're back. You're not in the B minor, you're actually in a B minor Dorian or B Dorian or an F sharp minor or an A major. All the same thing. So yeah, work out what key you're in. Then, because we're staying in the same key throughout, I would suggest that a good way to start approaching the solo is to start with your pentatonic. That kind of shape. But what I'm actually doing when I'm playing a solo is I'm joining up all of the pentatonic shapes. So So that's all F sharp minor or A major pentatonic, but if you want to play a solo that sounds kind of fluid and the melodies and phrases connect to each other, that's a good way, a good start. That's the framework at the bottom of what I'm playing. Is if I'm playing pentatonic, I have a good grasp of where each of those shapes are and how I can connect them up during the solo. So that should be sort of one of your goals if you're, I would say if you're playing in a function band and you're thinking, oh, I'm playing the same thing over this every time, and you're playing Get Lucky, for instance, probably the most comfortable place that you're going to be playing F sharp minor pentatonic is either here or here. So I would start going, okay, well, I'm going to start somewhere else. So pick a place on the neck that you're not comfortable. So if there are any of those 5 pentatonic shapes which you're not particularly clued up on or you don't feel comfortable, I would start playing music there. And if you can get to the stage where 2 or 3 of those pentatonic box shapes you're actually comfortable with, then you can start to put together a solo that sounds so even though I could have played that all in one shape, it's more lyrical and I feel kind of freer if I'm playing it across the neck. So yeah, so let's talk about scale selection, I guess. If I'm playing Get Lucky and I'm thinking of the B minor, the D major, the F sharp minor, and then the E major, because I know they're all in A major, so they're all diatonic, the only thing that I think of is the major scale, and that is A major. So I know a lot of people oftentimes on some of my stuff will ask, what modes are you using there? And generally, I'm not thinking in modes at all. I'm thinking major scale. Major scale is home. And I think the mode concept is kind of overcomplicating it. So some people might say, okay, over the B minor, I'm playing B Dorian. D major, I'm playing D Lydian. F sharp minor, I'm playing F sharp minor Aeolian. And then E major, E mix Lydian. But actually they're all the same thing and they're all A major. So I would just treat it as A major and not be thinking too much about that stuff. What you might want to do is try taking the arpeggios of each chord. So there's your B minor, a simple one, D major, triads even, sorry, or arpeggios, same thing. Then F sharp minor, E major, and then do the same thing in other places. And then what you might want to do is try to be a bit smarter about joining them up with close voicings, so like B minor here, D major here, F sharp minor here, E major there, and do that in as many ways as you can think of. So here's another B minor, D major, F sharp minor. And what that helps you to do is to start building up like a visual and like a physical kind of map of that song. It should kind of become a subconscious thing, like I said about the pentatonic shapes. What you want to do is build up these behind the scenes and subconsciously, so that during your solo your fingers have things to grab onto. That's the way I kind of think about it. So as many different routes that you have through those chord changes, the more places your fingers might have to go and the more interesting your ideas might be, is the thinking. So yeah, you could take that same concept onto this another string set. I'll try and play the right thing. So a B minor, a D major, and an F sharp minor, which is going to be weird. Clearly I'm less comfortable with that string set than I am with the okay, so that's another thing that I would try doing. So one specific thing, so when I recorded both of these solos, the only thing that I had going into it was that I know I'm coming back to the B minor from the at the end of the so like the sequence is a 4-chord sequence. At the end of the sequence, I come from the E to the B minor. So what I did was think, okay, I could imply an F sharp like altered thing before I come back to the B minor. So if we did it sort of like so you kind of hear that that's like a passing chord. I think that'd be what that would be called. So that was in the back of my mind, and I have a few different like arpeggio shapes that I like to use over an F sharp alt, which is an altered chord which I've implied or I've got in the back of my mind happening just before the B minor. So that was like a lick that I had in my mind for the second one, so kind of a cool little. So what I think that is a dominant 7 arpeggio with a flat 9. So you're starting on the flat 9, the G. So yeah. So that's like a little idea that I'd like to try if I'm working on a set of arpeggios. So that's something that I've been working on for ages. I've got another. That's like an inversion. Where else would we go up this one? So I like to try and get them in context in a song. So you might say, right, I'm going to use a passing chord here. Or you might just say any time that I find like a dominant E chord or something in a song, I'll use some version of what I'm practicing at the time, which happens to be a dominant 7 flat 9 arpeggio. So that's a way to try and spontaneously start getting your practice material into the song. So in terms of approach to the solo, that's what I'm thinking. So I'm thinking, what key am I in? And you can figure that out from what chords they are. And it's by a process of elimination of working out, okay, what key has all of these chords in, unless you can hear that there's an obvious key change, which is a kind of a different thing, and probably something that we should probably come on to at another stage. What key am I in? I'm in A major here. Okay, what's the bedrock of what I want to be playing over that? The very basic stuff, F sharp minor pentatonic or A major pentatonic. Next step on from that, I should probably be playing that in a few different places on the neck. So there are 5 places, 5 positions, 5 shapes for the pentatonic. Ideally you want to know those. Once you get comfortable with the pentatonic-y shapes, you can start thinking about the major scale. When I'm improvising with the major scale, I'm careful about where I place the 4th. or in A major, I'll be careful about playing a D. I can play it over the B minor, over the D. Doesn't really sound good over the F sharp minor. Does if you change it up a bit. Doesn't really sound great over the E. So I could. So in my improvisation, I'm generally trying to be careful about use of the D, or the fourth note, and if I do land on it, I'm probably going to be using it as a passing tone if it's on one of the chords where it won't sound great, like the F sharp minor. So yeah, once I get to that stage, so I've gone through the pentatonic stuff, I've gone through a bit of major scale stuff, I might then start thinking about, okay, well there's this chord here, so there's this E major, and I've got to get back to the B minor. What can I put between those? I'll go to the 5 of the B minor. I get this from like jazz theory and playing quite a bit of jazz. This is where this thinking comes from. So from the E, an F sharp altered chord to the B minor. So although that's not actually going to be happening in the backing, I know that I can imply with certain arpeggios, I can imply that quite strongly. The arpeggios will be a stronger way to imply it than scales as well, by the way, because I'm not going to go into that exactly, but arpeggios will generally be arpeggios will have a stronger tonality than the entirety of the scale. That's basically what I'm thinking. So yeah, that's my approach to this solo, as much as I can go into without going over specific notes, which are in the transcriptions in the link. Yeah, find your key, pick it, find a bedrock of like comfort and sensible soloing. You know, start off simple, gradually build up that complexity, and then start thinking about the gaps in between chords, in between the harmony, where you could potentially link stuff up. So that's what I do, and then when I'm actually playing a solo, what I'm trying to do is connect phrases. I'm trying to repeat phrases. So if I have like a rhythmic or melodic motif, I'm listening to what comes out, and then I'm thinking, okay, well I could repeat that. I'm not thinking it just happens, but when I'm practicing, those are things that I would actually practice. So play a phrase, 3 or 4 or 5 notes, keep it fairly simple, and then go, okay, well I could change that up, play the same thing again, maybe you play that same thing again, but you move it up the scale a bit. So, you know, like that sort of idea. Yeah, and that's the basis of how I think about this stuff. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Please leave in the comments other questions and stuff, because I'm kind of going blind on this one a little bit. The specific shreddy and long phrases you can find in the sound slice lesson. Yeah, so I think that should get us somewhere to a conversation, hopefully. Yeah, so let me know how you get on, and start playing over Get Lucky. Cheers.